On a crisp, golden morning along a windswept American coastline, Sarah Mitchell saddled up her beloved horse, Shadow, for what promised to be another chapter in their shared saga of adventure. The pair had forged an unbreakable bond over years of roaming open fields, chasing sunsets, and trotting along sandy shores where the world seemed to fade away. The beach they chose that day was a breathtaking expanse, its golden sands shimmering under the early light, kissed by the rhythmic crash of waves and the sharp, briny scent of the sea. For Sarah and Shadow, these moments were a sacred ritual, a fleeting escape where they moved as one, their hearts synchronized in the freedom of the ride. But this day, the serene beauty of the coast would morph into a harrowing battleground, testing the depths of their devotion in ways that would etch their story into the annals of courage. As they ventured along a familiar stretch of the beach, the ground beneath Shadow's hooves betrayed them without warning. What had appeared as firm, sun-warmed sand was, in truth, a treacherous patch of quicksand-like mud, a deadly trap sculpted by the relentless ebb and flow of tides. Shadow's powerful legs sank into the thick, viscous mire, and within moments, he was ensnared, his massive frame caught in a grip that defied his strength. His muscles strained as he fought to break free, his hooves churning the muck, but each desperate movement only pulled him deeper, the mud clinging to him like a malevolent force. Sarah dismounted in an instant, her heart hammering in her chest as the gravity of the crisis sank in. Shadow, her steadfast companion, was trapped, and the tide was rolling in, its waves already creeping closer with a menacing, inexorable rhythm. The sea, cold and indifferent, began its relentless advance. Waves that had once lapped gently in the distance now surged forward with alarming speed, each crest higher and more threatening than the last, their frothy edges glinting in the sunlight. Sarah dropped to her knees beside Shadow, her hands plunging into the icy, clinging mud as she reached for him, her voice soft but urgent, trying to soothe his rising panic. His eyes, wide with fear and confusion, locked onto hers, and in that fleeting, heart-wrenching exchange, an unspoken vow passed between them: she would not abandon him, no matter the cost. The mud was merciless, coating her clothes in a heavy, sodden layer, weighing down her limbs and chilling her to the bone. Yet, Sarah's resolve burned brighter than her discomfort, a fierce flame kindled by love and duty. She knew the rising water posed a lethal threat. If it reached Shadow's head, he could drown. With no time to waste, she positioned herself to cradle his head, her arms trembling under the strain as she fought to keep it above the encroaching tide, the saltwater already lapping at her legs. Time stretched into an agonizing, surreal blur. Minutes bled into hours as Sarah battled to keep Shadow's head elevated, her muscles screaming in protest, her body shivering from the relentless cold and the suffocating pull of the mud. She whispered to him, her voice a steady lifeline despite the fear clawing at her heart, urging him to hold on, to trust her as he always had. Shadow's breathing grew labored, his massive frame trembling with exhaustion, but his trust in her was absolute, his body leaning into her support as if drawing strength from her presence. The tide was now a formidable adversary, its waves crashing just feet away, spraying them with frigid saltwater that stung their skin and blurred their vision. Sarah's mind churned with desperation. Help had to arrive soon, or the sea would claim them both. She had managed to call for assistance early on, fumbling with her phone as the mud sucked at her hands, but the remote stretch of coastline meant rescue was agonizingly distant. Every second felt like a lifetime, a brutal struggle against the raw, unyielding forces of nature. A small crowd began to gather, drawn by the unfolding drama: local beachgoers, weathered fishermen, and nearby farmers who had seen the glint of desperation from afar. Their faces were etched with concern, some shouting words of encouragement across the wind, others wading cautiously toward the edge of the quagmire, their boots sinking as they tested the ground. They tried to help, tossing ropes or offering to pull, but the mud was a treacherous foe, swallowing their efforts and rendering their makeshift tools useless without proper equipment. Sarah, though grateful for their presence, remained laser-focused on Shadow, her hands never leaving his head, her fingers numb but unyielding. She could feel his heartbeat, erratic but strong, his trust in her a palpable force that fueled her determination. This was more than a fight for his life, it was a testament to the bond they shared, a connection woven through years of quiet moments, shared silences, and unspoken loyalty. The ordeal wore on, each moment heavier than the last, the weight of the struggle pressing down on Sarah's body and soul. Her clothes were sodden, torn, and caked in mud, her arms numb from the relentless effort of holding Shadow's head above the water. The tide was unforgiving, now swirling around her thighs, its icy grip a constant reminder of the stakes. She fought back waves of fear, exhaustion, and creeping doubt, her mind anchored by one unshakable truth: she would not let go. The crowd grew, their murmurs a distant hum against the roar of the sea, but Sarah's world had narrowed to Shadow, his labored breaths, the faint tremors rippling through his frame, and the fierce, burning determination in her heart to see him through this nightmare. After what felt like an eternity, over 3 hours of unrelenting struggle, the faint, blessed rumble of machinery pierced the air, cutting through the relentless crash of waves. A rescue team, equipped with a fire truck, heavy-duty ropes, pulleys, and specialized tools, had finally arrived, their vehicles kicking up sand as they roared onto the scene. The crowd parted, their faces alight with hope as the professionals took charge, their movements swift and precise despite the chaos. The team assessed the situation with calm expertise, their voices steady as they coordinated their efforts. They secured thick ropes around Shadow's body, looping them carefully to avoid injury, and set up pulleys to combat the mud's tenacious grip. Sarah, her face streaked with mud and tears, stayed by Shadow's side, her voice a constant, soothing anchor amid the flurry of activity. The rescuers were struck by her endurance, their eyes reflecting awe as they realized she had held on for over 3 hours, her strength defying the limits of human will. The rescue was a delicate, grueling process, a tense dance between man, machine, and nature. The mud resisted every effort, its suction pulling against the team's progress with a stubborn ferocity. The tide was now perilously close, the water swirling around Sarah's waist, its cold bite sapping her strength as she continued to support Shadow's head. Every movement was critical. One wrong pull could injure the horse further, snapping a leg or causing irreparable harm. The team worked tirelessly, their hands blistered, their faces set with grim determination, sweat mixing with seawater as they strained against the ropes. Sarah's voice never wavered, her words a lifeline for Shadow as much as for herself, a steady chant of encouragement that held despair at bay. Inch by agonizing inch, they loosened the mud's hold, the ropes creaking under Shadow's weight, the pulleys groaning as they bore the load. The crowd held its breath, the tension thick as the sea roared in defiance, its waves now a constant threat. Finally, with a collective, Herculean heave, Shadow was freed. His massive body lurched forward, trembling and unsteady, his legs wobbling as they touched solid ground for the first time in hours. The crowd erupted in cheers, a wave of relief and joy washing over them, tears streaming down weathered faces as Shadow staggered to his feet, his coat matted with mud but his spirit unbroken. Sarah collapsed beside him, her arms encircling his neck, her sobs mingling with gasps of relief, her body shaking from the ordeal but her heart soaring with triumph. The ordeal had lasted over 3 grueling hours, a relentless test of endurance that had pushed them both to the brink of collapse. But they had won. The rescuers, drenched in sweat and mud, clapped Sarah on the back, their voices thick with admiration, some wiping away tears of their own. Her refusal to abandon Shadow had kept him alive. Without her holding his head above the water, the outcome could have been a tragedy. Shadow was led to solid ground, his steps tentative but steady, where veterinarians rushed to examine him. Miraculously, he was unharmed, though visibly shaken and exhausted, his flanks heaving as he caught his breath. Sarah, too, was a vision of exhaustion, her body caked in layers of mud, her clothes torn and sodden, her limbs trembling from the physical and emotional toll. Yet, her spirit was alight with a quiet, radiant triumph, her eyes shining with the knowledge that they had defied the odds together. As the sun dipped toward the horizon, painting the sky in hues of amber and gold, Sarah and Shadow stood side by side, their silhouettes framed against the fading light, a testament to their shared victory. The crowd dispersed slowly, their hearts full, carrying with them the story of a woman who had stared down the sea itself for the sake of her horse. Word of that day spread far beyond the American coast, rippling across communities and touching hearts around the globe. It became a powerful parable of the depths of love, the strength of the human spirit, and the extraordinary lengths to which one will go for a cherished companion. Sarah's courage, her refusal to yield in the face of overwhelming odds, her body and soul battered but unbowed, became a beacon of hope and resilience, a story whispered in awe by those who heard it. For Sarah, it was not about heroism or glory but about love, pure and unyielding, a force stronger than the fiercest tide. It was about a promise made in the quiet moments of their bond, riding through dawn mists, sharing apples in the stable, feeling the rhythm of his gallop beneath her, a promise to stand by Shadow's side, no matter the cost. As they left the beach, the waves still crashing behind them with a now distant fury, Sarah knew that she and Shadow had faced the sea and emerged stronger, their bond an unbreakable force, a light that no tide could extinguish.